everybody, you're watching In Search of America, Travels with Hyper. I'm Malika, and we're here today with superstar Twitch partner friend Trihex.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
On one of the most important nights of American history.
That's correct.
Yesterday was election day, and we are still waiting for all those electoral votes to be counted.
Yep.
Joe Biden's in the lead.
That's correct.
You seem not to be worried, but I have the anxiety gears. Hashtag election anxiety is trending. That's me right now. I have these anxiety gears grinding away. But I really wanted to talk to Trihex because you collaborated with the Biden campaign, didn't you?
That is correct. Yeah, I did.
So do we have you to thank?
Well, there's a couple things I wanted to dive into there with you,
Sure.
actually. And the first thing here is that you said that I don't seem very anxious.
Yeah.
I don't have like the
You're cool as a cucumber, dude.
yeah, I don't have like the election anxiety, right?
Sure.
So let's go into why that is here. See, people discount polling because of the 2016 election because
Right.
how could Hillary have lost, right?
Right.
And the thing is that one, there's a pandemic,
Right.
economic turmoil, and civil unrest all happening simultaneously.
These are all very true.
This is Trump's America, okay?
Mhm.
All these bad things are happening. People are definitely getting the idea that it's not currently working. We need different leadership, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And so that is being evident in the polling. Trump has not made a great case conveying here what he's going to do in his second term to like remedy all these issues. If we go back here to the
Right.
Chris Wallace Fox News interview, go back to the Axios interview, go back to the Laura Ingraham September interview, and then go back to the disastrous walkout in the middle of the 60 Minutes interview. All of those people individually asked him 5 separate times, what are your plans for a second term?
Mm-hmm.
And he had no valid answer.
Nope.
Keep America great, more of what's
Yep.
happening right now.
Yep.
Vague, and can be, the goalposts can be moved constantly, right?
It wasn't really a strategy at all.
So when you look at the polling of how Biden was doing nationally and state by
Right.
state here,
Right.
things were not looking good for Trump.
Right.
Because it'll translate to an unparalleled amount of voter turnout because people are hurting right now.
Right.
The pandemic's been going on officially since March 13th, right?
Right.
And what have Americans gotten since then? 20 million unemployed.
Yep.
They've gotten one coronavirus check.
Yeah.
$1 trillion. Which formerly Mitch McConnell said would be good for 10 weeks. Which
Right.
obviously is a slap in the face, but it has been longer than 10 weeks.
And not to mention, I think we're at 250,000 deaths in the United States right now. I'm just thinking about all those families who are mourning.
It's honestly, here's the sad part here. I remember when 100,000 was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point now where it's like normalized almost. Like
sure,
I'm like,
because everybody knows somebody.
everyone knows someone who's affected. Yes.
Yeah.
We've
yeah.
gotten to that point now. And you're right. It's
Even our camera operator's a survivor of COVID-19. And
really,
yeah.
wow.
Yep.
And
Had it
you
in
know,
March.
And there's been long-term health repercussions, still recovering his sense of taste, his sense of smell. And, he's a pretty young, fit guy. And so not only are the people who have passed away, but the people who almost passed away, and then people who, are continuing to live with symptoms with no answers. However, we've been on this journey across the United States from LA to Miami. Now we're on our way back, hitting you up in Louisiana. I saw a lot of Trump signs, and that was worrisome. And you're wearing a blue t-shirt right now. You're a Democrat in a conservative area. What's that like?
Ah, man, that is it's regressing. It's exhausting, definitely. I'm numb to it. I'm normalized by it. The reality here is that most people don't get to really have the privilege of picking where they live. It's like we don't get to pick what family we're born into. So
Right.
my family resides in Louisiana, and I want to be near my family. My grandmother wasn't doing too well health-wise last year, so I moved mountains to make sure that she had all the adequate care she could have before passing. So that kept me bound here. Would I love to move to, liberal utopia, Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
hypothetically? Yes. But the thing is now, like, my life got a lot simpler with coronavirus because I was like, well, I want to remain where it's population sparse, not
Yeah.
dense. So, I want to, stay wherever I can kind of just isolate to the best of my ability and not have to have any possibility of catching the virus or whatever. So
Yeah.
for that reason, I'm just kind of, chilling here. But yeah, being the lone progressive out in the wild, it can get defeating, honestly, because I
Yeah.
can tell you firsthand, just how anti-mask and anti-Biden and
Oh,
like just anti-science a lot of the people are around
oh,
here. You can just see that that like the gutted education is definitely
right,
showing in these
right.
local areas right
There
now.
was just a study done. I forgot which university. Oh, we're gonna cite those sources in the comments. Um, but the number, like 1 and 2 contributors to kind of pro social behavior is sadly critical thinking and belief in science. And for me, it's extremely discouraging to even like why is this up for discussion, right? It seems so basic.
Well, hate to point fingers at things here, but the answer is simple. It's religiosity. If you go back here, I mean, look at the fact that was it Nebraska or Arkansas that almost like passed a thing where like creationism was supposed to be like the primary method of scientific teachings in middle school onward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you know.
so, as somebody from the area, did you experience some of that, like education?
So yes,
Yeah.
okay.
What
So
was it like going to school here?
so all right. So going to school in the South here. So some contrast, right? So I'm
Mhm.
actually born from Orlando, Florida, but I live
Yeah.
now in South Louisiana, right?
Yay, another Florida
You know,
friend.
you know it. And grow, growing up in Florida, it was always multicultural and diverse. I had friends. They were white, they were black, they were Puerto Rican, they were whatever. Like I never, it wasn't accumulating the races, right? Because
Right.
it was so diverse.
Right.
And
Or like, you're my friend because we share a certain hobby.
Yeah.
We were just talking about
I
that.
had my Pokemon friends, I had my video game friends,
Yeah.
whatever, right? I was totally with you on that one. So when I moved to Louisiana, here's where it got jarring for me. I moved to a rural, small town, Louisiana, with my mom when I was 11 years old. Big 180 for me here. When being here, going to middle school here, it was crazy because the demographics were simple. There was 4 main groups of friends to be a part of in the cliques: black girls, black guys; white girls, white guys, and that's it. And you fall in line. The hobbies did not unify everyone. It was identity. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, we're black, so we hang out with other black friends, and that was it. And it was subconscious. It wasn't like a deliberate effort
Yeah.
made by like some kind of like, rootin' tootin' pro segregationist
Yeah.
teacher or whatever. This was ingrained into the culture. And for me coming from Florida, I was like, why are y'all doing this? What is this here?
Right,
Like, it's so
right.
weird to me here.
Right.
So that was very jarring. So that's an example of where like the racism is kind of like literally taught on a
Right.
subconscious level. Um, Maybe even the pain from segregation may still persist.
Yeah.
Racism obviously still
I
exists.
think that's certainly true. I think that's
Right?
definitely true. As I travel the country, that's what I'm seeing.
And then, but to continue on about your question about like what's like going for school in the South here,
Right.
more of a random topic there, but like sex education is like they are very keen on that again, that religiosity,
Mhm.
on that abstinence.
Yeah.
Because even for me in 6th grade in Florida, condom on the banana, here's puberty, here's your genitals,
your body is changing.
your body is changing, right? And then you come over here, and I'm telling you, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th
Yeah.
grade, 12th grade, nothing,
Right.
nothing.
Right.
I'm sorry, 0 plus 0 times 0 is
Equals
0.
Zero.
You got nothing. I didn't
Yeah.
know what's a PP, what's a vagoo. Didn't know any of this stuff. There was never at any point any kind of condom distribution. Any kind of like, hey, listen, if you're gonna do it, strap up.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. It's ignorance and teen pregnancy
Yeah.
rampant,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Like, acknowledge that curiosity is going to persist, and you need to inform and let the teenagers and the young adults who have the information make adequate decisions. When you leave them in the dark, all they have is the parents who also progress sexuality with the religious background, or they go ask Dr. Google in private
Mhm.
if they have access to that in the first place here, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's sad. It
Yeah.
really is sad. You're clearly disturbed by many, the racial tensions, social problems here, not only in this area but in the country. Have you felt the urge to confront that on a personal level, like as a student or as a resident here?
You know what? Okay, this is where it gets a little more pessimistic, honestly.
Sure.
I feel like a flea in a large yard full of shit, of pig
Yeah.
shit, if we will here. It's like, it's such an uphill battle that you're better off just like, we need systemic change to really inspire that kind of transformation. And I think that goes back into the fact that we need like We need, on a political spectrum here, we need ranked choice voting. We need popular vote to persist. We need abolishing the electoral college. You need things on a systemic level to change to allow like functioning democracy and a majority representation of Americans' views persist to allow that change for it to trickle down to local Louisiana, honestly. Because the things I've seen here, right? The things I've seen here in Louisiana, like why are people like pro-Trump or why are people like anti-Biden?
Right.
They associate. I mean, name every clickbait headline article, right? They're like, Biden's going to put taxes on me. Not true for making under $40,000 a year. I think a lot of y'all don't make anywhere near the amount of money, so I don't think worry about anything like that. Okay? They think that that the lockdowns are a democratic thing, and that that's anti-freedom, and that the mask is infringing on their rights. So they think that lockdowns, masks, and high taxes are all intrinsically a Biden thing. That's why they oppose them. But they get lost in the sauce over the nuance of what a tax increase is going to mean for the deficit, which is usually a pro-Republican talking point, what the masks are going to do to get rid of the virus, which is going to help get the economy going again, and that a lockdown is necessary from all the other neighboring countries that have already gotten the virus under control, that we have not yet. Again, there's a reason why we have 5% of the world's population in the USA, yet we have 20% of the world's cases. That is systemic failure, full stop here. So what is little flea Trihex gonna do in a sea of red without the anchoring of a systemic change to inspire that?
Well, speaking of being a little flea, you have a unique opportunity because you're, in my opinion, one of the most respected Twitch partners, and you're a lot more than just a little flea on the Twitch platform. Have you always been this open with your own streaming community that when you go live and you're playing a video game, are you talking about these issues?
Actually, I've gotten a lot of people asking me, "Hey, you're on like a lot of people here. You actually openly engage in political discourse." And I appreciate that. And I will say here that in a vacuum of manufactured charisma and being as appealing as possible, yes, being politically active and politically engaging does theoretically hinder my potential audience. But I also don't sleep well at night knowing that potentially I want people to know who I am unapologetically and what I believe in. The one thing that's gotten me to where I am now is always being passionate and transparent about things that inspire me and that mean a lot to me. In the past, it's been video games. But we're at a point now where things are so bad IRL, I can't guilt-free consume the escapism of video games, knowing that we have every 3 days is another 9/11 worth of Americans dying needlessly. So
I think you're echoing some of the exact same feelings that we feel, where I like who I am and I can rest at night because I recycled and I voted a certain way. I have these value systems that are important to me for my personal integrity. And the same way, we didn't feel right because we had the powers of these cameras to turn them on and go across the country, meet people on a street level, and see what America really is, and to check in with real people actually trying to create change. Before we started rolling the camera, you talked a little bit about you weren't that politically active until the last half decade or so?
Yeah, it was around 2015. It's actually whenever I discovered Bernie Sanders and who he was, and he was going to be entering to run for the Democratic primary in the 2016 race. And what really got me in there was that I found someone who I identified with in great unison and synergy policy-wise. I was like, oh, yeah. Green New Deal. That sounds great. Yeah, Medicare for all. That sounds great.
Somebody who cares about students. Hey, I'm a student.
Student debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness. Ending homelessness. Affordable housing plan, $15 minimum wage. All these incredibly popular. They do poll well. Incredibly popular pro-America policies here. These are the things that help directly the majority of the working class American people right now. It just makes sense to me in that regard. And we can defend that even on a statistical basis because we have neighboring countries who do similar policies and it works. Right now in America we have abysmal poverty rates. Where majority of Americans can't even they don't have $400,000 in savings in their accounts. They're living check to check. And now with the pandemic and the unemployment and all that, they're hurting. They're hurting bad. Bad. So yeah, whenever I heard about him, it's got me like, oh, the world doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
It can be different. This is not like the status quo.
So
We can do better.
what is your vision like for the future, and not necessarily whole country, unless you want to speak to it, but just like on a real like individual level, like what should life be like?
Well, okay, so there's two factors there, right? You're asking what is my ideal scenario for USA and what do I think will happen over the next 20 years? So ideally, yeah, we ideally what needs to happen is that Americans are taxed whether you want to be or not, and that taxation goes towards actually bettering the citizens. As of right now, majority of that taxation goes towards overseas wars, funding the military-industrial complex, and continuing to like fight, ambiguous goals like terrorism or whatever ICE is doing or whatever DA is doing. So that would be a start. Like people, rather than the stigma be like, oh, all taxes are bad. We need to abolish all taxes. No, the taxes are there to fund the government. The government's there to help the people. And we have to like get rid of all the systemic rot and all the corruption in the current politics, and have the government be able to be a transparent body that helps people. Period. So that we can like rebuild our middle class, so we can like lift up our poverty level all together here, and come all together. The reality is, the best way, the analogy to look at it is like, people always give a stigma to the homeless, but the homeless are homeless because of our societal issues we have right now, whether it be opioid abuse, drug addiction, and just like inadequate, antiquated, unrealistic economic policy.
Yeah.
And it would be literally cheaper to rehabilitate the homeless and get them on their feet again, working to become tax revenue generating American worker citizens. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. Period. When we were in Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, I'm like, it's right next to each other. We found out a devastating fact. We found out that the teen homelessness population has doubled in the last 2 years because of the increase in the opioid epidemic. I was devastated. We met with a wonderful nonprofit organization that helps orphans, and they expanded their mission to help the local community. And they said in particular, there's not a lot of nonprofits that work with the teen population, just like elderly little children. And I had no idea it was that bad. It was that crushing. So when you say, yeah, it's not their fault, that's an example right there of doubling in the last 2 years. Holy
now,
shit.
The difference there, though, is like I'm coming at it from an empathetic angle for the homeless. That's not what the average American thinks. Americans thrive on that American exceptionalism. They're like, oh, well, if they're homeless,
it's their fault.
It's their fault.
But these are children. These are children, right? Like, they never have the support network to be successful Americans, however you define that. Like, how can you, like children are born innocent and they're not racist and they need all our love and support and good education and that's what's infuriating to me.
You brought up a thing right there that I thought was a very, very valid point. I do believe that racism is a learned behavior. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Absolutely.
It's learned, 100%. That's the one thing I can tell you I've learned from being in the South here is that like that to them it's like oh, this is just the proper way. They are how they are, and they're not good people. Sorry, it is what it is. But that's a learned behavior, right?
Personally, though, do you think there is hope for unlearning that kind of prejudice?
Yes. I think any individual can be de-radicalized. The problem is we only have a finite amount of time on this planet, and so like it would take on average, if I'm being like optimistic here, a 3-hour candid conversation with somebody can de-radicalize any overt bigot. But the problem here is like that's 3 people a day, 9 hours a day. You do that every day of the year between now and forever. It's like 3 years from now you'll have like maybe 10,000 people done. That's it. It's just like you're not gonna. It's just like Meanwhile, we have a population of 350 million people. So it's like, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
So like you can only do so much. You have to like. Again, if we're at the bottom of the waterfall, we have to come to the very top here to figure out what is the blockage of acceptance that's stopping everything from being better right now. So we got to start there. So I think we have to inspire a systemic change to bring about that micro change that comes at the individual level.
Yeah.
Because we can stop one big at a time on an individual basis with me and you with our de-radicalization through conversational therapy. But how do you stop a movement fueled by bigotry and ignorance and fear? You gotta go higher up than that, you know.
Yeah. Um, I was so upset at that first presidential debate. Biden, Trump can't even say no to white supremacy. Like I was so upsetting, and I was just like, no more. Like I refuse to be a victim. And how do you keep yourself from just I don't know, drowning in a pit of despair, or like being in like a fireball of rage when we are talking about such huge, multi-generational, multi-century long human problems?
Well, I admit, okay, I was a radical, pro-revolution, burn it all down because it's unstable, right? Like, our institutions that we have right now, they're antiquated, and we need to like start a revolution and build it all the way back up.
Yeah.
But simply put, the problem there is like we've learned now that it's gonna take a lot more than that. It's not just having the right solutions; it's conveying the solution to be popular with the majority of normal, non-political junkie Americans.
Yeah.
That's the difference here. So you have to have the solution, which we have, but you also have to have the messaging to make it resonate with the majority of Americans here. Americans don't want to hear about, socialism or an American Revolution because they love America. They love what they think it is, but are in denial of what it actually is. You know what I'm saying?
Do you love America?
Right now,
Yeah.
no, it's bad. We're actually at a really really dark time. I would say actually.
Yeah.
However, though, that exposure is getting there. We are exposing here the whitewashing of American history. We are exposing the truths behind even some of like the worst things here, where you look at the tale of Thanksgiving, up into the Trail of Tears, these Keystone pipelines, these Japanese containment camps that happened during World War II, which was complete bigotry. Let's be real about that there, okay? And we can go on and on, right? I mean, the BLM, police brutality, criminal justice.
I only recently learned, and I'm half Chinese. That's my father was Chinese. About the largest mass lynching in the United States history was of Chinese men, and as a resident of Los Angeles, ashamed to learn that it happened pretty much where our Union train station is. So at Union Station, the largest mass lynching in American history was of Chinese men. I call that city home. And I did not learn that in school. I did not learn my own history. And that's why I feel such a betrayal when we don't have intersectionality. Like you see some of it, like thank goodness, the old Jews that survived the Holocaust are saying like, I see this happening with other groups of people and we need to stop it. But oftentimes you don't see that intersectionality between like different groups like LGBTQIA, Black people, brown people, Asians, immigrants, all the groups that are marginalized and like pushed out. And then my heart is so torn because you have all these marginalized groups that feel the pressure to perform whiteness for their own safety, right? And their own success to chase the American dream, leaving behind everybody else who's being mistreated in the same way.
Yeah, they have to conform. They can't stand out. Yeah, you have to conform to what is like acceptable spectrums of Americanness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's subconscious, honestly. There's a reason why whenever I was my girlfriend's white, we're interracial, right? And there's a reason why I caught myself whenever I was to meet her parents for the first time, and I thought I have to convey that I'm extra not threatening.
Right.
I need to put on my highest amount of charisma, artificially past my natural point, just so that they don't think that I'm threatening or that I'm a problem or that I'm one of those thugs or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's totally fair to just assess me at face value as another normal human, not because I'm a black human, right?
Right.
And yeah, and it's crazy how much that is subconsciously ingrained into us, especially.
Yeah, internalized racism.
Internalized racism.
Something I've been trying to ask during our trip, especially when I talk to other fellow people of color, is what do you want to say to the other, especially young people of color who are watching this? Because I think activism itself is kind of written by white allies. I love them, I appreciate them. But people of color don't have as much of a path to follow when it comes to what should I be doing right now in 2020?
That's a good question, and I feel like the most we can do right now is definitely normalize the the POC experience, right? I think just a lot of our fellow Americans just don't know. How would they know? You know, if you and the problem here is like if you get too like abundant in trying to tell them what it's like, they take it as, oh, you're being preachy. Is it really that bad? The answer is yeah, it's really that bad. Here are some stats. Look into it. So, how we do that is a good question, but it's a fine line to balance there. You want to be engaging without being preachy, because just like how like if you wanted to like de-radicalize, say a bigot, right? You can't shame their idols. You know, if their idol is like I think they're like um I mean, like someone's like really bigoted, right? Like who's that one famous KKK member?
Oh God.
But yeah, she was David. Hey, thank you,
There you
thank you,
go.
Gary, David,
Thank
David.
you.
Yeah, let's are you gonna be able to convert a bigot if you like tell them how much of a terrible person Hitler or like David Duke is, right? You know, you're attacking their values directly. At that point, they're gonna tune out. So
Yeah.
you can't attack America or whatever their values are right away because they're gonna tune out. You have to like slowly lean them in, and you have to like and you can't be preachy here. So what black people can do right now is kind of like help convey what that black experience is like, and try to get them to like really understand and make them relate to it. You know,
Yeah.
for you white person, it feels
Sure.
like this, but 10 times worse for me.
Right. Right.
Because that example I can think of for a white person where they feel uncomfortable or they feel like they're being marginalized
Right.
is like it's based off of like you chose to be
Right,
a cop or
right.
you chose this career path you're in right now, whatever it may be here. I didn't choose to be black,
No.
and that's the difference.
No. Definitely.
My existence
Yeah.
is a stimulant to result in this kind of situation.
I actually had a theory, bringing it back to kind of earlier coronavirus, and we were learning to stay 6 feet apart, start wearing masks, wash your hands, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I apologize. I thought we were going to be eating here. So
Oh no. I'm here for the. Well, you gotta teach me how to say this
Boudin.
and how to eat it. Boudin. All right, in just a little bit. But I have this theory. Just humor me for a sec. That I would say people of color, but especially I would say black men and transgender black women, especially. They're used to people avoiding them.
Mhm.
They're used to people walking across the street when they're on the same side of the street for them. They're used to the stares, the
The
side
example I
eye.
could think of here is that if you're a black man in an elevator
Mhm.
and you walk in the elevator with a
Yeah,
white woman already in the elevator,
right.
what does she do right away?
She leaves.
She grabs her purse. She clutches the purse. Hand on the purse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
she like bolts out of there. And I feel like the social distancing is the most many white people may have felt of people avoiding.
Mhm.
And I think that is maybe something uncomfortable that they're not used to. You know? Because I'm trying to, like, aren't you afraid of the virus? Aren't you afraid of getting sick? You know what I mean? Like, I've been trying to rationalize, like, why
I don't
aren't
think-
people wearing, you know?
So I don't think it's a racially motivated behavior in that regard. I think it's a misinformation, pseudo-intellectual, like, misfiring there. Again, the social medias, they all are there to gamify information. They're not there to be the most effective information circulation. They're there to be as addictive as possible.
Right.
And so manipulating your dopamine, manipulating your information receptors are all their game.
Right.
The whole point is like, to keep you scrolling, and the minute you're about to like stop scrolling, get you right back in there again with the banger article.
Yeah.
So they'll give you like a 10 out of 10 firecracker, and then you're in the rabbit hole, and then the minute it's winding down, firecracker again,
Yeah.
right back at it, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
like ultimately what helps do that is to like kind of give you a reality distortion field and reinforce whatever you think. So if you're a flat earther and you love the idea that you're putting on the earth being flat, it's gonna feed you flat earth stuff, pro flat earth theory stuff, time and time again until you're a complete junkie, until your environment's completely engulfed in throw flatter stuff here to the point
Yeah.
where then you think that you're in the majority, that everyone else is a sheep because they're not woke right now, and you know that high key that these plant industries, they're lying to us. Science is wrong. The biodome is real. The Earth is flat.
Yeah, yeah.
And the same thing applies here to the virus.
Mhm.
They're like, well, no one I know is dead. Well, this didn't happen until the Democrats want to get rid of Trump.
Right, or it's some disgusting thing that's only happening in cities.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only happening in Democrat cities right now,
Right.
as he says. So therefore, I don't know. I'm skeptical about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's made up here, but
Yeah.
right. So they don't take it seriously.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's the answer here. Around here, the masks, social distancing, all that, they don't take it seriously at all.
Very upsetting. 'Cause I don't know about you. I'm like, no matter who you vote for, like, you don't deserve to get sick. You don't deserve to die, and I don't want to get sick from you. You know what I mean? So I want to take some of the topics that we discussed, which are, affecting not only our country but the whole world, but take it down to a world that we really love, which is games.
Yep.
Or actually, I'm assuming you still love games.
I love games. Absolutely.
All right, I still love games too. You were saying that games are your form of escapism,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
What are the things that leak over from real life that kind of affect your fun and joy of playing games with other people and hanging out with other people as you play games?
So what carries over from IRL into gaming for me?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing actually. I don't know. The reality here is that the appeal of gaming for me was that it didn't resemble anything like IRL for me. So let's go back here, right? So my teenagehood was in Louisiana, right? But my childhood was in Florida. So as I alluded to earlier here, the racism here is ingrained consciously, right?
Right.
So when I tell you there's only 4 groups: black guys, black girls, white guys, and I'm a black kid. I'm a black kid who loved Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, anime, etc. Right?
Yeah.
That made me an outcast because I was like the only black kid playing Yu-Gi-Oh in school.
Right.
And out here it was so ignorant that like teachers thought that we were practicing witchcraft.
Right.
Which is ridiculous.
Satanic panic.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It was ridiculous. Right. Now with that in mind, that also meant that all my friends were white.
Yeah.
To one way or another here, and so with that in mind, I had all white friends. Not
Right.
because I chose to, because they all played Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
How did
Right.
that affect you?
Dramatically.
Yeah.
So the black kids would call me White Mike. My name is Michael. They would call me White Mike, and they would tell me, "Hey, why do you act so white? I don't get it. Like, what you doing?" And I'm like, "How am I acting in race? I don't understand right now." So they just like the ignorance was weaponized,
Right.
and it made me feel like I was the weird one because I was like I didn't give it any attention. I'm like, no,
Right.
I'm not letting my race dictate what I do.
Right,
I'm
because you
doing what
didn't choose that, but you choose to like Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah.
Right. So honestly, I felt alienated, outcasted, isolated,
Right.
and often was made fun of by both the white kids and the black kids in certain cases here. So ultimately, by like 13 years old, I was like, man, okay, well, you know what? IRL sucks. I'm a very unpopular kid in school.
Yeah.
I hate it altogether, honestly. It was very, very traumatizing growing up. I had no father figure. My dad's out of the picture entirely. So what I had my games, and I had the purpose of becoming good at them. I wanted to be a god gamer at that
Yeah.
point. So my identity,
Yeah.
Trihex, is what I came up with when I was 13 years old because I wanted to be the world's best Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Yeah.
As corny as that sounds, that got me through the day because I was like, I would be exhausted during a school day, and I was livid when I got off school. So I was like, finally, what's the one thing I can do out here with this trash internet that's slow as crap, out in the middle of nowhere where there's no comic book shop, no tournaments. The one thing I have is playing Yu-Gi-Oh online. It didn't require a great PC, it didn't require a fast connection, and I could spank noobs all day long and get good at it, and I loved it, right? So when you ask me about what does IRL bring to gaming, for me, not much,
Right.
because my gaming was always all about pursuing my
Right.
purest self in the glory of the escapism.
Right.
I loved it.
Right.
So
And
I
then you took. Sorry to interrupt you there.
no, let's go.
So you took, this experience of being a nerd and loving these games, and you kind of amplified it by becoming a Twitch streamer, and you're a partner Twitch streamer. And not only that, anybody in the world can see your face while you're playing these games, and then on top of that, your face is a global emote. So, whether or not you like it, people have taken the real world prejudice, racism. I know you're no stranger to that.
Mhm.
To you on your channel, like what has that been like?
So believe it or not, here, try hard does get used a lot in a lot of problematic bad ways, but it's a duality. It gets used in a lot of good ways as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, on my channel, I have never experienced any kind of like bigotry
Well,
for
you moderate your own community.
my own community.
Yeah.
I'm also the face myself here, so who's going to use it on me?
Right.
So I have no problems on my
Bigots
end.
are also cowards.
They are. You're right, because it's anonymous accountability, right? Like the minute they actually, if we had like a Facebook connected 24/7 internet posting society, would they ever say all that?
Yeah.
If it's tied back to themselves identifiably? The answer is no, right? Clearly. But but yeah, how do I feel about it? It doesn't bother me because I understand that the reality here is okay, like the communication realm, it's not static. It's fluid. It could, like fashion, it continually changes here. What was normal dialect, we now associate as like old English or like face dialect, right? If you go back 50 years ago, what we now know is the explicit, naughty naughty words.
Yeah.
Those were taboo for a time until ultimately stand-up comedians used them as as their taboo spicy modifiers of communication, and then they became normalized once we moved to the internet age, right? So the whole thing is things change over time ultimately, and just like that with Try Hard was never meant to be a weaponized dog whistle for black people.
Right.
It can be abused as such, but it can be used for good and bad.
Right.
But of course, the problem here is you have a very shallow take on the call out to globally ban the emote, which I don't agree with yours.
Yeah.
Because the precedent
like,
there is that
your face isn't racism, like
you're right.
You're not the face of racism.
So this would be the equivalent of taking, let's say, the peach emoji
Sure.
and the eggplant emoji.
Yeah.
We both know what those are used for in majority, in context. But what are they intended for?
But we put that on a fruit.
Exactly. So you're not going to ban that for explicit content, are you? Or would you? No.
Right.
So the reality here is that like you can't look at Try Hard and be like, okay, well, I want to get rid of that. Because if you do, you're saying that, okay, well, we can't solve the problem, The accountability is too dire to enforce, so therefore we have to just ban your emo. We have to ban your face.
Right.
So then you just empower hate, because then that abuse will continue to steamroll, and then we're going to ban every other black face, we're going to ban every other woman and minority emo.
Exactly.
It ultimately goes back to the whole point that the only ones that would not get abused are white people, which goes back here to the actual point, which is that representation matters.
Yeah, representation. Amen. What do you want to say to those people who are using your face, though? It's your face, dude. Like I'm angry for you. What do you want to say to those people?
You're cowards. I mean, I've never talked to them directly because, like,
you hear that?
It's just like, I don't know. I feel like you don't know me. If you know how I convey myself, how I conduct myself, you know that obviously I don't view myself that way, and I don't encourage you to use it at all that way. I wish you wouldn't do that. But ultimately, you're a coward because you know that if you're looking to get banned, you want attention, you can't get attention. You're like a crying little brother who's like pestering their older brother to play it on the PlayStation or whatever. And the reality here is that because you can't be a meaningful, engaging member of that community, you're there. The attention's not being fed on you. You have to just kind of bark out and do the one thing or say the one word that will get all eyes on you, whether it's good or bad attention. And so because you do that, you're no better than a screaming toddler or 5-year-old. Congratulations, you played yourself. Yeah, I wish they wouldn't do it, honestly. Yeah. But I can't. I also don't wish to police communication because. So it's ultimately I openly invite moderation of your channel, and it's unfortunate that it is what it is here. But it's not uniquely a Twitch problem. It's an internet accountability problem. So you have to take your battles and choose them. Do you want Big Brother monitoring all communication? You have to also accept here and glorify both the positive use of emotes to convey communication as well as the inevitable negative ones.
Yeah.
It's a very slippery slope. We start to ban all that kind of stuff there. Obviously, it sucks, but you take it a day at a time. All emotes can be abused potentially.
Yeah.
And the reality here is that this is a culture problem, and it will get better over time.
Right.
If we go back 10 years ago, think about how toxic the rhetoric was in any given Call of Duty online lobby, right, or any kind of like online chat room 10 years ago. You know, I can think of certain gamer words that were like, you know, flying around nonstop, even from me back then. And now they're acknowledged at least as like, you know, kind of not good to say anymore.
Sure.
They dehumanize people. They can be used pejoratively and be hurtful.
Right.
So we've come a long way, but it will take time for that culture to naturally progress to where that all feels like a huge stigma to say. You know, and it's ironic because you know, those naughty words, you know, you know, the F-bomb, S-bomb, I don't want to cut that out here, but like all those words, you say them now, you know, if I call you an MFer, you blink, you're like, okay, and but you know, 50, 60, 70 years ago, those were like the incredibly lethal words to say, right? But it's because of the taboo and the context and fluidity of communication and language, those have changed now. Those are like your surface level things. You know, me calling you MFer means nothing of the context of, you know, your age, your gender,
your parents,
your racial identity. You know, I'm not hitting you, you know, on what's intrinsically you. It's just a generic, you know, hey, I generically insult you, and I, you know, and I slap you, I challenge you to a insult duel. It means nothing, right?
If there's one thing that people could learn by spending time with you on your stream or watching this video right now, what would it be?
If there's one thing they could learn about me,
or take from this conversation.
Oh man.
That's a high stakes questions here.
Yeah, I guess, okay. If I can think of one thing here, is that, listen, I don't think every Trump voter is racist, but I do think generally every racist was probably a Trump voter. See the difference there? So I do think that, like, those who voted for Trump in 2016, they can be de-radicalized, and I want to talk to them. So I honestly, whenever I talk about politics, the one thing I do on my stream that makes it like really, for me, engaging and fun, that you may not be aware of here, is that like I don't just circle jerk my own policy wish list.
Right.
I don't sit here and say, you know, being a liberal is awesome. Oh my God, dude, let me tell you about, you know. I instead implore people to tell me what they're not happy about. What are your priorities?
Right.
You know, they might tell me economy, immigration, healthcare. Okay, well, you know that there are, you know, if you look at those policies as your priorities, not the characterization or the mannerisms and all that, all the mantra you may see about that person, you can let that determine instead comparatively who you want to vote for. And I try to get people to understand that, because once you find the candidate that aligns with all the things that are important to you, that's when politics, when you feel represented wholesomely, that's when you're like really into it. People think politics are boring or toxic and divisive, but in reality, if you look at the populist policy, what people overwhelmingly want to do, like have legalized marijuana, that may have been like a harder thing 20 years ago, but now it's polling above 70% at this point, right? You know, so we can unify on that. Imagine all the non-violent drug offenders who are like behind bars, in some cases 20 plus years right now, for having never done anything. For smoking a plant.
That's a whole other, and the privatized prisons. All right, we're gonna have a few fun questions. I think your food's arriving. All right, I know you're a lover of anime.
Yes.
You got any good stuff that you're watching right now?
Man, okay, so just recently, I did finish One Punch Man season 1 finally.
Yes.
That was super lit. I'm like really behind there. So I'm gonna tell you some boomer anime I've watched, right? So I finished that. I about 2 months ago finally watched Death Note.
Okay.
No. Keep in mind, I know it's almost like a boom, like Word by Bed, right? No, I've long since read Death Note, but I never watched it, and it was really cool to like see all like to see what parts were kind of like glossed over and which ones were like really emphasized in the anime. I gotta say, I thought it was gonna be a snob. I thought it was gonna be like, you know, I don't know, man. Can they really take all of like the greatness of Death Note, the manga, and like make it a baller anime? Yeah, I thought there's no way, right? But to my surprise, I was very impressed actually. I thought it was actually really, really good. And
but have you seen the live action one?
No, I have not. So I've double dog dared my girlfriend, like, can we?
Don't do it.
Do you want to? I told her, look, I'll buy a bottle of sake. You know, we'll do. Let's just do a drinking game. Every time we have to pause to, like, you know, what the
process.
Yeah, like we take a shot. I told her let's do that. She's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I like Death Note too much to even
Yeah.
like do this. No, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, like the only thing about it that was okay was William Dafoe, right?
No, to give you an idea. Now, I wasn't gonna watch it like, okay, whatever. It's just Netflix cashing out, making some garbage calling it a day. However, I had a friend tell me,
Yeah.
who loves Avatar, Last Airbender, right?
Yeah.
He told me that Death Note Netflix is as bad, if not worse, than the M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender movie.
So that's one I can't watch. I'm still like, no,
Don't do it.
Don't do
I can
it.
tell you, I saw it for free in the theater. My friend like gave me a ticket to like for the meme.
Yeah.
I regretted it.
Oh god.
It's
so boring.
It's not even good bad. It's just boring bad. Yeah.
So boring.
I should have walked out, and I regret not doing it.
Yeah.
It's trash.
Ooh. All right. What are you excited about in games coming up?
All right. So get this right. So I do have the PS5 pre-order. I managed to get 2 pre-orders in.
Okay.
I have one on Walmart and one on Target.com.
All right.
The Walmart one is kind of sus because it didn't charge my card.
Sure.
So
oh,
it's
no.
secured.
You're screwed.
I'm
You're
like,
screwed,
I
man.
haven't gotten. I got an email confirmation and I haven't heard anything since then, right?
Ooh, yeah.
However,
Ours is at Target. I hope it's good.
Wow.
my Target one did charge my card 2 days ago.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Did we pay for ours?
A person named Matt Acevedo did. So,
All right.
and he already took our money.
there you go. There you go.
All right.
So I have a PS5 secured, I think. So at that point, the game changed for me. So I'm going to be hopping on Demon Souls. PS5 remake comes out day 1. I'm hopping on Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Looking really, really exciting here.
Yeah.
And initially, Cyberpunk was coming out November 27th or
Yeah,
November
December
17th.
something
But now it's December, so it's good because now I got
Mhm.
time. Can you imagine playing Demon Souls, Spider-Man, and Cyberpunk all in the same like?
I'm only gonna
Honestly.
play Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
I
can't.
don't know. I want to see Keanu Reeves in a video game.
I mean, okay, but I'm only gonna play Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, it's looking super sick. Not only that, I want to revisit Spider-Man because it's like you can just tell that like God of War 2018 and Spider-Man are both like next-gen games running on like modern,
Oh, yes.
freaking
I,
lunchbox PC hardware. They
I'm
couldn't keep up with it.
very good friends and collaborators with the programmer that did the axe throwing code just for God of War. The level of detail and care on that game is insane.
Oh no, I genuinely I couldn't dick ride God of War 2018 enough. I cried. I thought I don't have kids. I'm not a dad. How am I gonna relate to
Oh,
Kratos'
you're
dad?
not bad.
Oh, I mean, I got 3 kids. I got 1 dog and 2 cats. Yeah, I got.
Most people don't consider.
There,
That's
people
not.
don't consider their
people
pets
people
children?
with kids think you're an asshole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm a dog dad certainly, but like finishing that game, I'm like, man, this is what being a dad is like. It was like, dude, watching Atreus grow up and just like and all that. It's just like it was emotional in a way I didn't expect, and I think the game is fantastic. So I am so excited to see that God of War 2 happen on PS5. I'm excited to revisit all those games with all their obnoxious load times reduced considerably because I know that game was just throttled by the bandwidth throughput of the hardware. You're loading so much graphic texture that you gotta have all these filler walkway corridors to load all that stuff. And I get that.
Yeah.
But I cannot wait to experience it the way it was envisioned to be experienced.
Yes.
Free of hardware compromise. I am so ready to
Yo,
like
they
revisit
gotta
that.
hire him as the advocate. Listen to him, free of hardware compromise.
I mean,
Where's your Sony deal?
Yeah, where's your
Right?
Sony deal, dude?
I mean,
We're gonna try to help you.
yeah, I mean, help me out.
We're gonna take just that clip.
Yeah, we're just gonna take that. You wanna retweet? Come on. This has been sitting here,
Yeah, that.
and I've
so,
heard all sorts of things. Our community is like, Malika, you gotta try Boudin. You're gonna love it. I heard that you gotta use your teeth and everything.
Yeah,
Can you
so
demonstrate?
yeah, it's meat wrapped in intestine. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna grab this one.
Yeah, the
Right.
whole one.
Oh, we got a little thing right here.
That's just casing.
Yeah, it's just casing, right? Oh, because it's already breaking. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna do this and this and that and this
Yep,
and
we got
that.
it. Yep,
All right,
all
so
right.
okay, here we go.
Okay.
So I'm taste right here.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit cold, so this might not be as money shot banger because what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to be able to just kind of eat into it and
Yeah.
bite and then kind of pull the intestine out from your
casing
teeth.
out. Yeah.
But because where we are now, it's kind of cold. It might.
Mm.
You got a little bit right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, this one, the casing's already. All right, I'm gonna do
Already
this.
exploded. Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. Hey, Zach, we're gonna try Boudin the way it was meant to be eaten. All right, here we go.
Now, take in the seasoning. It's got a little bit of kick to it. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Now I will admit it's so hard because I know it's kind of cold right now, but like you got that, you got boudin balls. They're delicious, they're fantastic. Man, if y'all were here earlier, I had some crackling that was fantastic. If you had it before, fried pig fat, it's delicious. Holy shit, shucks.
You're fine.
But yeah, that's some good stuff right there for
That's
sure.
really good.
Mm.
Really good. Well, thank you, man, for your time today. Sorry about the tech issues that hit
Oh
us
no,
today.
it's been all love. The pleasure has been all mine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm doing this thing.